Collins. I am one of the co-chairs of the exam subcommittee. Yeah, that's good enough. And we're here today to talk about, give you the last bit of information about the exam and give you an opportunity to ask any questions. So also on the session today, we do have David Strauss, who is the other co-chair, as well as Doug Kristofiak, the registrar. So if you have any questions, between the three of us, we should be able to handle it. And if not, we will definitely get back to you. So as you've all noticed, we are using Zoom as our platform for this. And we have muted everybody while I'm talking, and then when we get to the question and answers at the end, we'll certainly unmute anybody who needs. And I just wanted to point out two boxes within the Zoom platform here that are going to be a very big use to you guys. One is the chat, and you're going to be able to open these. They're either along the taskbar that's either at the top or the bottom of your screen. And it'll either be right there or go to the little more icon and it'll be underneath that. So if you have any questions, I'm in the middle and don't want to interrupt, certainly send something out on chat and we will get to it as soon as we can. If at all possible, send it out to everyone so we all know what's going on. But if you need to send a private message, I think we're all on there as ourselves. So you should be able to direct it to who you need to. And the other box that's going to be of use is the participants box. So within there, you're able to raise your hand. And I think when we get to the end in the Q and answer, or if you have a question that you don't want to type in, that you actually want to ask verbally, raise your hand and we will then be able to unmute you and deal with your question. So those are the housekeeping items, so to speak. And we are recording this presentation, so it should be available for you guys to review on the website within a couple of days. We're getting better at this turnaround. So there we go. This is our plan for today. I don't have a big presentation. I just have a few slides to go through, but the main purpose of today is to give writers. Oh, somebody says they can't hear anything. I'm not sure. I'm going to let my technical support here deal with that. I'm assuming I can see my little microphone button going up and down, so I'm assuming everybody else can hear me. I got a thumbs up from David, so thank you for that. So DMH, when you can hear something, let us know. Like I said, today, the main purpose of today is for writers like you to have an opportunity to ask any last minute questions. We really want you to be on the right track. We, try and give you as much information as we can in a very logical manner. But just, make sure that you're spending your time on the right stuff and, you're ready and succeed on exam day. So this is what we're going to go through, where the exam is, what you should already know, really quick overview of the exam format. I know Dave covered that really well in the kickoff webinar. A lot more detail about what to expect on exam day. There's some contact information at the end, and then we're just going to open up the floor to ask any questions. And like I said, if anybody on the phone call can't hear, can't answer the questions, we will take your answer, talk to the people who are in the know and get you guys the answer as soon as possible. So, as you all probably have this start on your calendar for quite some time, the exam is Saturday, November 3rd, between 10 and 2. It's a 4-hour exam here at the AAFP offices and training rooms. So, the offices are on the 3rd floor. The exam is going to be in the basement in the training room. The building is called the Qualico South Building. There's the address. Google it. That's going to be the best way of getting here. And it may be the first time that lots of you are coming to the AAFP offices. Traffic's really light at this part of town on a Saturday morning, but I would say give yourselves plenty of time to get here on time. That's the last thing you want, is to be stressing yourself out about not getting here. There is plenty of parking Here's the Google snapshot of where we are. You can see that there's plenty of parking in and around the building. It's all free. There's no cost. I assume that staff parking is available on Saturday. Like there's some that are staff and some that are designated as visitor. It's not a big deal where you park. It's going to be all available. Use the front doors. They are on the west side of the building facing 93rd Street. This place is locked up tighter than Fort Knox on the weekends and after hours. So there will be somebody at the door to let you in because the doors will be locked. And I'm going to say we'll be starting at 9:15. We'll have somebody there manning the doors, certainly no earlier than that, because we'll probably be still setting up. And if nobody's there right at 9:15, just give us a few minutes to get up there and start letting folks in. Be sure when you get in that you get told how to get out, because it is a slightly different set of doors that you are able to exit out of after the end of the day, because you will be letting yourself out. And when you come, you will have to sign into the building because they have their security, and then you're going to have to sign into the exam. And I'll be stressing that a couple more times, but just so you know, there is a couple of places to sign in. And once you're in the building, just head downstairs to the basement. There's a training room kind of close to the elevators. It's not that difficult to find. So this is the stuff that you should already know. Everything that you need to succeed, to actually ace this exam, is on the Forestry Commons. And so there's the website. It has the URL has changed slightly, I think, in the last little while, but it's pretty easy to navigate from the CAPFT website, because we've separated out the prep from basic exam stuff. And of course, on this website, the really key part is the reading lists. That identifies all the documents, all the acts, legislations, policies, whatever it is that you need to know for this exam. And we've even tagged the topics to those exams, or to the exam topics. So each document is tied to an exam topic there. I think I got it right. So yeah, that's what you got to read, is everything in there. As well as on the site, there are some summaries. Some are more detailed than others. But you can see kind of in the bottom left there for the Forest Reserves Act, kind of what we like to provide. Sections important to forestry professionals is, of course, where some of the focus should be. I won't say that aligns 100% on the exam, in that you don't need to know anything else about these policies except for what's there, or that you're going to be tested on every single policy and every single section that's listed. But it does try and help you direct some of your efforts, because there are some rather large policies. I can think of the Municipal Government Act and the Environmental Protection and Enhancement Act. I mean, they're rather large documents, and really what's relevant to us as foresters isn't the bulk of it. So, and as well, in the reading list and the document summaries, there are, of course, the links to the documents. If anything on here is wrong or broken or needs to get fixed, please, please, please let us know, and we will update it. Sometimes things change fast, and we don't always catch up with broken links and whatnot. So, in addition to what's on the Forestry Commons, there are reference materials there that are not available elsewhere. So there's some readings, especially when it comes to professional practice, and an easier interpretation of our discipline process. That sort of stuff is all on there. So be sure to check it out for those things. And we also, of course, this is the place that we post the links to all of the recordings and previous presentations and whatnot that we've made. So there are the more recent ones are kind of grouped together at the top. Towards the bottom are past presentations, and then that's where the reference materials not available elsewhere are listed. We're trying to be a little more clear about what you get at each one of those, whether it's just a document which is on the reading list, or for a previous presentation, whether you're getting just the slides, just the audio, both the slides and the audio together, or whether it's a video. And over the years, we've certainly changed our format of these, so kind of bear with us that there's a lot of different formats on there. You'll also see that there's a number of versions of some recordings. We are trying to keep this up to date and get rid of things that are total duplication. But I will say that some of these ones that are on there that look like duplicates, there may be a slightly different focus. It may be a different presenter. And just with that, different presenter, we figure, something might tweak that one person says that another person said in a different way that it didn't make sense to use. So I'm just acknowledging that there is duplication, but we do think that it's important, and hopefully it gets reinforced that way. In addition, there is a Facebook group. It is a closed group. David Strauss, my co-chair, manages that. And we use it as a place to provide information to all the potential writers on a pretty quick turnover basis. This is going to be where we post any answers to questions that we get today that we can't answer. And it's also a place for peer support. So, we've seen it in the past that somebody asks the questions and another writer answers it. And I think that's great. Certainly use it to discuss the material amongst yourselves or create a study group, whatever you need. So quick overview of the exam format. This shouldn't be new to any of you either. There will be 16 questions on the exam that are each worth 10 marks. You only need to answer 10 of them, and they're divided into Part A and Part B. Part A, there are 4 topics, or 4 questions, and you have to answer all 4 of those. On Part B, there's 12 questions, and you have to choose 6 of them to answer. And to pass, it is a 65% overall on the exam and a 65% on Part A as a minimum to pass. It is a closed book exam, so we are going to be asking you to put your bags and electronics and whatnot aside. That includes headphones, watches, whatever else. If anybody needs a dictionary in the room, specifically a translation dictionary, let's say English isn't your first language, and you want an English to whatever, please let us know. We'll certainly allow that. I do want to stress that we don't mark on spelling or grammar. So if you don't know how to spell something, give it your best guess. Our markers are pretty good about interpreting stuff like that, and that's nothing to stress out about. We really want the content and not how pretty it may look. Most of you are handwriting this exam, and I just ask to be a little thoughtful of our markers and try and write as legibly as possible. I know most of us don't write very much these days, and we tend to type. So take your time. If you are prepared, 4 hours is more than enough time to get the exam done. So print as neatly as you can, write as neatly as you can. There is lots and lots of paper available. So if it's not going right or you wrote the wrong thing, you can just slide that aside and get a new piece of paper. So for Part A, the topics are that you're going to have to answer questions on professional practice, college policies and procedures, forestry legislation framework, and integrated resource management, which we call in this province the land use framework for the most part. And those haven't changed in a while, so that's no good. And of course, these are the 12 topics or 12 questions that are on Part B, of which you're going to choose 6. So we always get asked for sample questions. This is one that we use as a sample. And this is the entire, the question in its entirety. So you do see the number at the top. And the topic at this point in time, it was called federal legislation. We don't have that topic on the exam anymore. There's a blurb Sometimes the individual, like there can be a blurb anywhere in this, just really trying to help frame and focus and provide context for the answers or for the questions. And you'll see that the actual questions, sub-questions, whatever, the 1, 2, 3 at the bottom, that we do divide up the marks. Nowhere in the exam do you get asked one short question for 10 marks and have to, we do focus our questions and give you the marks. And I would say do the math. So for example, in number 1, it says name 4 acts, it's worth 2 marks. Well, I think it's pretty obvious that each act is worth 0.5, and we do allocate part marks. So if you're only able to name 3 and you get 3 right, you will get 1.5 marks for that. So it's never all or nothing. This is just a really quick screenshot of what the answer sheet is going to look like. We'll go through how to fill up the top on exam day, but what I really wanted to stress here was that you are going to get an exam number, and it's not going to be related to anything else, and that's what the markers are going to get. They're not going to know who wrote the answer to what, so there shouldn't be any bias there. So between now and the exam, study hard. I can't stress that enough. There is an incredible amount of content and material to know, and it's most people can't cram that into the last week or whatnot. So hopefully you have been doing lots of reading and studying up till now, and I'd say keep that up. Please register. The registration cutoff is 2 weeks before the exam, and so that is October 19th. I know a number of you have already registered, and we really, really appreciate that. You're also going to have to pay the fees by October 19th, and I believe the fees are $150 for the writing, regardless of college, regardless of whether it's your first or second time. And just so you know that there is no secondary writing location this fall, so we're expecting everybody to come here to Edmonton. And for those of you who are thinking like, oh, why not? I heard my buddy got to write in high level. At this point in time, we're just not even going to entertain a secondary writing location. We need a fair amount of notice to be able to make that happen. So you come in here, or if you can't make it to Edmonton, I guess there's wait. When you do arrive, like I said, you're going to have to sign into the building. You're going to have to sign in for the exam. You sign in at the exam room, and there's going to be a sealed exam package. Please leave it sealed until instructed to open it, because that's where all your stuff is going to be. It's going to contain your exam, and it's going to contain your answer sheets, and there'll be a little overview sheet that hopefully we'll put on the outside, and you'll have to sign that. We usually ask people to spread out. I think we're going to be pretty tight in the space that we have, so yeah, we'll be limiting the number of people per tables. Like I said, bags and stuff at the front door. Don't expect to have any of that by you, but please bring your own pens, pencils, snacks, coffee, whatever you need, and leave that, set that up on the table with you. There is a sink in the room, so if you just need to refill a water bottle or something like that, that's a-okay. And I just ask that you be a little courteous about the snacks that you bring. Cellophane that goes crinkle, crinkle, crinkle every time you reach in for a chip or something like that. And your neighbors might not like that kind of noise. So just, yeah, think about what you bring. But we are going through what's normally everybody's lunch hour, and I expect that folks are going to get a little peckish partway. During the exam, like I said, if we can keep the noise and disruptions to a minimum, we are going to be letting you know how much time is left so that you can allocate your time accordingly. We'll also say that if you're not done at the end of 4 hours, don't panic. We're going to come and talk to you and just kind of get a sense as to where things are. And if you need a few more minutes, we're more than happy to give it to you. We're not super strict about the 4-hour time limit. I do think that it's plenty of time to write the exam if you are prepared. But don't let that 4-hour time limit stress you out. If you need a little bit more, we're more than happy to give it to you. Washroom breaks will be at your discretion. And if you do have any questions, just stick your hand up and we'll come in to you and whisper to get that done. Of course, when the exam's done, we're going to expect it to be handed in. And so we'll probably be sitting at the front or maybe at the side or maybe even outside the door. We'll see how we get set up. When you do hand the exam in, please don't run off right away because we are going to look through it and make sure that you did answer all 10 questions. And if you haven't, probably send you back to your seat to answer 10 questions. And we want to maximize your chances of passing this exam too. I just double check that everything's all labeled and of course that everything that came out of that envelope goes back into that envelope. And you're going to have to sign out of your exam. And usually we do that with a time. Get your bags and sign out of the building as you leave. And like I said, we'll let you, of course, know where the exit is to get out of the building. If you're going to chit-chat or wait for your friend or whatever like that, just please do that in the hall. It's a pretty solid double door, I think, at the training room. So we should be good there. Then the fun stuff, we get to mark them. So how we do with the marking is we take everybody's exam and everybody who answered question A1, we put all the answer sheets for A1 together and they go to a single marker. And we do that so that there's consistency between the marking, between all the exam. And those the markers are someone who have familiarity with that topic area. So they are able to interpret answers and get a sense as to what people meant when they wrote it. Then all the markers record their marks for all the exam writers, and that comes back, and the co-chairs do another review. We review it for fairness and consistency, and we also pay special attention to those folks who just didn't quite meet that 65% mark, because we do want to ensure that it was marked fair and consistent and we're making the right decision. Because when marks are provided, they are final. There is no room for appeal. The results will be emailed to you as soon as we can, but I will let you know that it takes at least 4 weeks. So you're going to be on pins and needles for that time, but we will expedite that as soon as we can, and the registrar does ask that you please don't contact the college in between. We are going to get them to you as soon as we can. And for contacts, of course, you can always call Doug at the college or David for a CAPF team members or myself for a CAPF member. If it has to do with registration for the exam, Doug's probably your best bet. Anything to do with anything else, either Dave or I are more than happy to help. We will be sending out a survey after the exam just to get your feedback on, fairness, and did we provide adequate preparation materials and opportunities. And I will let you know that we do look at the results and consider changes or improvements for the next time. And we did try something new this year with the last webinar, that panel discussion. It was a bit of a hybrid between what we used to do in terms of an all-day in-person study session versus these webinars. So please, give us your feedback at that time. We really do want it. All right, well, we got to the question part of the day. And like I said, if you have a question, type it into the group chat, please, or raise your hand in the participant box and we will unmute you. But I'm going to sit back now and let you guys ask. And really, it's about anything. Should you register? Exam content, something about what we had written on the Forestry Commons. It's this is your last opportunity. All right, I do see a question about the environmental management frameworks. Is there a working link to those documents? Webpage, all the details. I will take a look at those links, Devin. Thank you for letting me know. EMF. Okay. I will say that the integrated resource management system and the land use framework, and getting down to the EMFs, we do depend on that section a lot on the presentations that have been given, because the documents that are available don't kind of provide that cohesive overview for it. But if there is a broken link, I will fix it. Next question from Sean. Is there for sure going to be a question on each of those 12 topics? Yes. There will be 12 questions to choose from on Part B, and those are the 12 topics that are going to be asked on. You only need to choose 6, though. All right, another question from Emily. To what depth would you recommend studying the complaint resolution process? I know there's a 70-some page document on the interpretation of what's in the Act. You don't need to know all the intricate details of it, but certainly the overall high-level process. So I would say understand what might constitute or what might cause the complaint. So what is unprofessional conduct? Who complained? How does the complaint get to the college? In what format? And then, of course, what the options are. And so it is, what triggers a hearing tribunal, and what triggers an investigation. Those sorts of things. Not yeah. Well, I hope that answers your question, Emily. There you go. And Doug, of course, suggests that the key sections of the Act that are relevant are the ones that are listed in there. Thank you. I'm going to pass the next question here off to Doug as the registrar. So what kind of confirmation are they to expect for registering for the exam? Do you want to talk?
Yeah. Bottom line is anybody that registers online should send them an email confirmation receipt that you were registered, And then the second phase of that is making payment of the $150 for the writing fee. And if that's been approved, you'll get a email purchase receipt, and that's your confirmation that you're registered. But the registration, anyone can register, and if you say sending a check in or skip the payment portion, then it'll show up on the administrative side, and we'll be checking back to you and making sure we have that payment before you write. But that's basically it. But once you get their email registration, if you want to call the office, if you're not sure if something went blip on your screen or something, just call the office and we'll check our RSVP admin page, and usually your name shows up, then you're okay. And then we can check whether you paid or not.
So another question from Devin. For the Lower Athabasca Regional Plan, is it expected that we would know each strategy for accomplishing an outcome? No. The specific plans are not, the specifics within each plan are not tested on, but I would recommend that you understand what the purpose of the regional plannings and a bit of the preamble of the Act talks about the strategies that they're going to employ in the land use framework, and that's important to know. Oh, good question from Rhodes K. And I apologize, I didn't address this and I should have. The question is, will we be required to know regulations, continuing competence bylaws for both colleges or just the colleges we are personally regulated under? It's the latter. If you are a CAPF member, you only need to read the CAPF specific code of ethics, regulations, continuing competence bylaws, and vice versa. If you are a CAPFT member, those are the only ones you need to know. We have framed the questions on the exam that it doesn't matter from which lens you are answering it, that the markers are that you can answer it as a member of either college, and the markers are aware then that the answers should be, I don't want to say generic enough, but not college specific. But I would highly recommend that you do understand what's in the Code of Ethics, continuing competence requirements, and the bylaws for your college. The one document that we have in our reading lists that might be specific to CAPFT is the summary of the discipline process, and I would say that it's under CAPFT because they are the ones that produced it. They had a lawyer go through and interpret the Act, and because it's in the Act, it does apply to both colleges equally, and I would say that that's the one CAPFT document that every writer should be looking at. And Doug confirms that the grader doesn't know who you are, what college you belong to, but your answer will show which college you were with, and the marker will understand that and grade accordingly. All right, well, we're still here waiting for some questions, but I can't stress enough using those resources on the Forestry Commons, the reading lists, to understand which documents are relevant or that we've indicated as relevant to writing the exam, and the summaries that are there. And looking at the Forestry Commons and taking in the material that's there does not replace actually reading those documents. Something like the Forests Act, we really hope that you have read and understand the breadth of what's in there. And it's important. Someone that identifies our tenure system, as an example. And those the recordings of previous presentations and webinars, I use those when I was studying. It was an invaluable tool to me, just to be able to see how some of those documents and policies fit together. And the presenters often focused on the most relevant parts of those documents, which was quite useful. And like I said, you might, if you listen to all of them, you might be hearing 2, possibly 3 on the same topic, but with different presenters and a different focus. I think there's something new to take away from all of them. And it reinforces the important bits. Well, I do see some folks are going. We are going to stay here until everybody does have their questions asked. So yeah, please put up your hand or start typing into the chat box. Yes. Sorry, Doug's just going to post a note there about following up if you have registered. So please register. I don't think we've ever turned anybody away at the door, but it does cause us a little bit of hassle if people just show up. So please ensure you're getting those email confirmations from the registration system and that your payments have been accepted. And that's how we know that you're showing up. And if you're not going to come, please let the college know. No shows doesn't look good, and it makes extra work for us too. And if the day of something comes up, please let us know as soon as possible. If there's anything going on, it's really hard for us to, not count your exam marks if, once you get it and you didn't do well, you say, well, I wasn't feeling good that day. Let us know as soon as you can about any issues that are going on, and we'll figure something out. also going to be really important, this writing, because I think we're going to be tight in that boardroom or in that training room. So we want to make sure that we have room for everybody. If we were to fail the exam, is there any penalty other than having to redo it at a later point? From the exam co-chair perspective, no, you keep coming back until it's done. However, there are deadlines for certain registers and for certain people. So if you attempt the exam and fail, but the deadline, for you to do the exam occurs before the next offering, I think Doug's providing an answer to that. All right, and, so Doug, speaking from the CAPF perspective, if you don't pass and you did have a deadline prior to April, you may be changed to a different register. But that shouldn't be a surprise. I'm guessing if there is a deadline, there has been notification given of the deadline and the consequences. Yes. So on the CAPFT side, you stay on the RFT register. And of course, anybody who has to challenge the exam more than once has to pay the writing fee.
Yeah, on the CAPFT side, the RFTs have a 12-month time limit to write. So if you cannot get to the April writing, and especially if you're a no-show, then there's implications on staying on the register and added costs. And then you have to rewrite in April at another cost of $150. But there's also other fees that are charged because you're going past the 12-month on that register.
All right, so another question here. What documents would you recommend reviewing for the Woodland Caribou policy? It's a dead link on the reading list. My apologies for the dead link. I'm going to add that to my list of things to fix. And I would suggest that the quickest way of finding it is to type in the title, and we've been pretty diligent about recording the exact title of all those documents just into a Google search, and you should be able to find a link to that particular policy. So Code of practice, watercourse crossings. Thank you. I will add that. So just an FYI, we are undergoing a exam modernization project. Just starting the initial phases. A part of that is going to be reviewing the reading list and determining should we be adding things to it, taking things off, kind of revamping it a little bit. So I appreciate the broken links, and I would say that in the near future, you know, for an example, and I don't know that this went on, but if the woodland caribou salt policy has been replaced by something else, we should be updating our reading list for that. But because we do publish the reading list, I would say that what's on there is what's on the exam. We're not going to be changing those things up at this point in time. Okay, another comment on the Reforestation Standard of Alberta Directive. Yeah, so those directives, especially to enact the RSA, are updated on an annual basis because the RSA as a document itself is updated annually. And it's been a while since we've opened up the reading list, so I'm not surprised that that one's broken. If you do go to the Government of Alberta Forestry website, there is a section on directives, and I would say if you're looking for the current directive, that would be where you would find it. But we will definitely update those links. OGR is another good question. We did post, or on our reading list, we do have those provincial operating ground rules that are the framework for renewal that companies have used, and a lot of them have modified to address their particular needs and their particular FMPs. I would say that we have framed the questions and the answer key on the exam to that provincial framework. However, if you are working in a particular area and are familiar with a certain set of OGRs, I would say on the exam, if you were to answer a question about what's in the OGRs, preface your answer with which specific OGRs you are referencing, and the marker will mark accordingly. If you don't say which ones you're using, they're going to use, or they're just going to assume it's the provincial ones. But if you are doing it from a specific company perspective, please identify which company that is. Well, the questions have been coming in consistently, but slowly. So I think I am going to give you your 5-minute warning and let everybody know that if you do have any more questions, now's your chance to ask. We'll be here for another 5 minutes or more. All right, and before everybody just starts disappearing, I do appreciate those of you that have hung on this far. We do have a little survey that's going to come up on your screens right away. If you wouldn't mind giving us a bit of feedback on how Zoom went and what you thought of the content of today's presentation.